All right, team, special treat for you today. My friend Sean Parnell has agreed to join us here in the Freedom Hut, talk to us about the very momentous events of the last 24 hours, as well as his congressional bid. He's going to be Congressman Parnell if things go according to plan here. Sean, great to have you, my friend. Of course, you're a former Army Ranger, author of Outlaw Platoon, and you were running for Congress. I know it's in Western Pennsylvania. What's your district?
Yeah, it's PA 17, which is Beaver County, Butler County, and Allegheny County, which is my hometown. So kind of crazy, kind of exciting. But hey, it's great to be back with you in the Freedom Hut, man. You know I love it.
Yeah, well, just don't forget who was on Team Parnell, in the earliest days when you're like head of the Armed Services Committee or whatever. Okay, just remember who was here in the early days. So now getting down to business for a second, my friend. I want to ask you what's your we've been talking a lot today on the show about the drone strike on Qasem Soleimani. You serve, you've been out there, you've been in frontline combat, you've had to see what the reality is of these kinds of decisions. What's your take on the takeout of Qasem Soleimani?
I think it's the best thing that happened to this country in a really long time. The world is safer and better place without Soleimani in it. Now, just for a lot of the listeners that you have that maybe don't know my background, 485 days of combat in Afghanistan. And I'm telling you, Buck, we fought against an enemy that carried Iranian-made weapons, armor-piercing RPG-9s that could penetrate our trucks, armor-piercing rounds. We're talking machine guns like AK-47s and PKMs that were fresh off of Iranian factory lines with the packing grease still on them and Iranian serial numbers. My truck ran over a plastic Italian TC-6 anti-tank mine, wounded 4 of my troops, killed my forward observer, Jeremiah Cole, was placed there by an Iranian-made IED cell team. And so we did nothing but basically fight against Iranian proxies for a year and a half who were trained really well. And Soleimani was the architect of all of it. And so I can't even begin to understand. It's hard to describe the impact that this will have. I mean, it's a momentous occasion. Iran's the number one state sponsor of terror, and Soleimani was the architect of all of it. Now he's dead and he's gone. And I think the message is, if you mess with the United States of America, there's going to be hell to pay. And that's a good place to be when you're facing an enemy that's determined to bring about your demise.
Now, Sean, the opponents of this strike are saying, but now we're going to have more troops in harm's way, at least those who are trying to make something of a real argument, right? There's people that are just insane, a lot of that, and some of them are elected Democrats that you may be serving beside in Congress soon. But put that aside for a moment. The serious opposition to this is people saying, this will result in escalation that'll put more of our troops in harm's way. You were one of those troops. What do you say to that?
No, it's garbage. It's a garbage take, Buck. It's a garbage take because, look, Iran has been at war with us for decades. They've been killing, capturing, kidnapping Americans for decades. They've been at war with us while we've constantly taken it on the chin. Now, the fact there's a lot to this, but I think it's really important to draw a distinction between targeting a military target. Soleimani was a legitimate military target. Now, we know, we have intel that he was planning and about to conduct an attack on U.S. troops just prior or around the same time we took him out. So he's a legit military target. We took him out with no collateral damage. It makes the world safer. It makes the world better. And this is just in the wake of the Iranians attacking a U.S. embassy. So we can take out terrorists, right, with no collateral damage and also not get entrenched in a war, right? I mean, it's possible. Just because we took out a terrorist doesn't mean there's going to be escalation. In fact, the fact that we counterpunched so strongly against Iran, I think, makes conflict with that country less likely.
Now, what do you think the Iranians are going to do? I mean, I've been saying, look, I know you don't know, I don't know, but is there anything that what are your expectations for the level of retaliation that they will engage in?
Well, I think they're going to respond, and I think what you'll probably see right off the bat is a cyber attack in some way, shape, or form. And if they're going to, I think if they're going to respond military, at least initially, you're going to see clandestine attacks from the shadows by Iranian proxies. And that's just if I'm just planning a military operation, most likely course of action for the enemy are probably those two things. But I'm telling you, I think that the Iranian leadership is scared, right? And this is an interesting time, Buck, because now this is not a political talking point, but the fact that we are now energy independent. For the longest time, my entire life, I've watched U.S. politicians tread softly around Iran because Iran controlled oil and oil shipping lanes for decades. Now that we're energy independent, we don't have to worry about tiptoeing through the tulips with Iran, right? And President Trump and our energy independence gives President Trump the ability to go directly after Iranian leadership should they threaten the United States or our allies. So I think, if I'm a tactician or military leader, or I'm in the Oval Office with the president advising him, I'm saying I think the Iranian leadership, the Iranian hierarchy are petrified right now because the people of Iran are rejoicing that Soleimani is dead. The people of Iraq are rejoicing that Soleimani is dead, and the Iranian hierarchy and the Iranian leadership is scared.
Sean, this president's foreign policy compared to what we saw under Obama's foreign policy, what are the key differences as you see it?
Well, and I think President Trump is different than Republicans and Democrats in a lot of ways. And, I think it says a lot. One of the key differences is that the fact that Soleimani is dead and President Trump has the guts to take him out. Come on, man. I haven't seen any. We've been at war, Buck, almost my entire adult life, right? And I've never seen a tactical victory like this on a high-value target, enemy of the United States, during that entire time. And President Trump's the one who did it. And so, you can get in the weeds and debate about foreign policy and about whether President Trump is effective or not. But I think that generally speaking, our enemies are more afraid of us than they've ever been. And I think our allies are probably encouraged, at least the boots on the ground war fighters are. And I think it's also important that being an ally is a two-way street. Our allies need to pay their fair share as well. For the longest time, Americans have been bleeding the ground red in countries all over the world with minimal help from our allies. And I think President Trump is doing a pretty good job at getting them to the table as well. So, our enemies being afraid of us is not a bad thing, and I think President Trump brings new meaning to the words peace through strength.
We're going to talk to Sean a bit about the political scene in a moment here, and also his bid for the PA-17 congressional seat. All right, everyone, we're back with combat veteran, former Army Ranger, author of Outlaw Platoon, and current congressional candidate for PA-17 out in Pennsylvania, my friend Sean Parnell. Sean, let's start with the kind of the 30,000-foot view going into this election year. 2020 has already started with a bang. Everyone knows that. Things already feel like they're heating up in a national security sense, and they're obviously going to get a lot more intense in a political sense. We're about 30 days from the Iowa caucuses, 30 days and change from the Iowa caucuses. This is all going to happen very quickly. What do you see as the key issues? Obviously, this is going to tie into a bit of what led you to run, but what are the big differences between Republicans and Democrats right now, and between the Trump movement and the opposition to it as you see it?
Well, look, I think that this election, and what I try to tell people here in Western Pennsylvania, is a choice between freedom or socialism. Freedom and our ability to chart our own path in life, or socialism, and the government controlling every aspect of our life. You look at what Ronald Reagan said. Ask yourself if your life is better off now than it was 4 years ago, right? It was profound in its elegance in terms of its ability to strike to the heart of what that election was all about. What I tell people now is ask yourself what your life would be like if any one of these national Democrats got exactly what they wanted. They would tax you into oblivion. They'd knock on your door. They'd take your guns. You'd see post-birth abortion, unchecked illegal immigration, taxpayer-subsidized illegal immigration. They would outlaw your private health care. Every Democrat on that stage represents an unnecessary intrusion into your life that we cannot afford. And so, to me, that is what this election is all about. It's a fight for the heart and soul of what this country was intended to be, Buck. And so that's why I'm in this fight. That's why I'm running. My message is real simple: defend freedom, right? And in Americans' ability to live the life that they want. And I think 2020 is the most. This is such a cliche thing to say because people say it all the time, but 2020 really is, I think, the most important election of our lifetime. And with its impeachment, what it essentially amounts to, I mean, the entire thing is a sham, and I refuse to debate the facts of an investigation, and I use the term loosely. I refuse to debate the facts of an investigation that's a sham to begin with. And so what it essentially is, Buck, is the silencing of 60 plus American voices. And I just can't stand idly by while something like that happens.
Do you think that it's blown back on Democrats? Are they going to walk away from this impeachment in time?
Well, look, if past is prologue, the Republicans lost, right? They lost seats in the House when we impeached Bill Clinton, right? This is the first time in American history a president has been on the ballot during an impeachment process. We don't have analytics both at the DCCC or the NRCC that can project voter turnout for something like that. We think the GOP and independent voter turnout is going to be through the roof. I know at least here in PA 17 that people are vehemently opposed to this impeachment. I think, for most of the people here are asking like, hey, well, what the hell do we send people to Congress for? Like we took a chance on Connor Lamb, who is my opponent, to go and be a moderate voice that can bring people together, but instead he's just towed the party line with Nancy Pelosi and done exactly the opposite of what he said he was going to do. So I absolutely think it's going to blow back on Democrats. But for me, ultimately, what this election is all about is just representing the people of Western Pennsylvania and being a true voice for them, because right now they don't have it, Buck. I mean, again,
okay, I want to ask you about this because I don't know much about this Connor Lamb guy, but the people that I do know who know say that Connor Lamb is like a bootleg liberal version of Sean Parnell.
Whatever, man. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. But all I know is that, look, the guy said he was going to oppose Pelosi, right? He votes with her 97% of the time. Now, that's only on 36 votes because Pelosi doesn't have to vote all the time, right? But how about this? He votes with Ilhan Omar 91% of the time. He has a lower freedom score than AOC. You can't be a moderate and hold those positions or have that type of a voting record. So to me, it's the message of my campaign is simple. If people of Western Pennsylvania want a warrior and want someone to defend them, pull the lever for me, because I'm going to be that. My opponent said one thing in district to get elected, and he does another thing in Washington, and that's the worst. All my life I've seen politicians like that, and it drives me crazy, and I think it drives other people crazy too.
What's the most important priority, assuming you win? And I'm going to assume, you can't assume it, but I'm going to assume it because Sean Parnell, damn it, America, make this happen. But assuming you win, what would be your biggest priorities to try to push? I know you're one of 435 in the House. But what would you want to be some of the signature issues that you're known in media, you're somebody that your voice will be heard a lot more than a lot of other freshman members of Congress would be. What's top of the Parnell agenda?
Well, just for the people of Western Pennsylvania, I can say unequivocally that this economy, we've got to keep it going, Buck. I mean, businesses and taxpayers are just starting to emerge and be prosperous after 8 years of Obama taxes and regulations. They were a wet blanket on the economy for 8 years, and people are just starting to get prosperous again. People want to keep the economy going, and so I think that's a major sustain for me when I get elected and a member, is making sure that we keep trimming back these regulations and lower taxes for Americans everywhere. I hate taxes. I think they're bad for this country. So it's going to be part of my job to keep taxes low. But I think the greatest leadership challenge of our generation, Buck, is figuring out a way to handle our debt and deficit, especially given that China holds the vast majority of our debt. It's going to be a major leadership challenge. I think something that chickens are going to come home to roost on our debt and deficit someday. And I think 2032, by 2032, if we don't have this problem solved, things are going to get really bad here. We can't keep punting on this issue. And so, many have tried to get our debt in order. Many have failed, but I'm not going to be one of the ones that fail.
Now, Sean, your opponent, no doubt, is going to get a lot of puff pieces in the media. He might get the Beto treatment, maybe a shirtless cover on Vanity Fair. Who knows? Because they're really gonna be trying to promote this guy to beat you. But so I'm going to take it upon myself. This is my show. It's a Freedom Huddle. I'll do what I want. Do a little puff piece section with Sean Parnell, where I just get to ask you questions that the audience may care to know. Like, for example, Sean, the real stuff. What is the best movie of all time?
Oh my God, man, this is a tough question. So so I'll just tell you, anytime anytime the movie Gladiator or Braveheart comes on a Saturday, kiss my Saturday goodbye because that's what I watch. You know,
those are both acceptable answers.
Are they good? I mean,
yeah.
Shawshank Redemption is also good. It's up there.
I mean, I will take Gladiator. Even producer Mark, curmudgeonly Mark, he will accept Gladiator or Braveheart. He understands those are great movies.
Good deal.
What is? And I know you're in Western Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's where the Pennsylvania Dutch farms are. I don't know Pennsylvania that well. But best ice cream flavor, Sean Parnell.
Cookies and cream, hands down. Hands down. But you got to go extra cookies. Anytime I go to Dairy Queen and get a Blizzard, it's cookies and cream or Oreo cookie Blizzard with extra Oreos.
All right. And if you,
wrong with that.
If I could send you to any,
these are like, by the way, these are like Democrat debate questions.
Oh no, of course. No, this is why. I mean, I feel like we might as well get this out of the way now because the Democrats, the Democrat questions that they're going to get asked. I mean, Connor Lamb is going to be asked by the New York Times, like, what's it like to wake up every day and feel so awesome? And oh wow, have you been doing a lot of crunches lately? Like that's what he's going to get asked.
I swear to God. Look, it's funny because it's so true. Democrats, hey, what's your favorite puppy? I mean those are the types of questions that the left gets, and so I gotta say, man, it's refreshing to get questions.
Do you think your great grandparents are looking down on you with pride? I'm gonna go with yes. I'm gonna go with Sean Parnell. Will say yes on that. I'll answer that one for him. Who's gonna win the Super Bowl?
Oh, my God. I don't even know who's going to be in the Super Bowl, but I'm going to go with San Francisco 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl, and I say the Baltimore Ravens win, even though as a Steelers fan, it pains me to say that I can't stand the Ravens, but I think they're the best team in the NFL right now.
Producer Mark is nodding. He seems to, you're getting the guy in here who actually knows something in the Freedom Hut about this stuff is saying that those are good shows. Look, we haven't been able to trip you up with this one. Yet. Interesting bit of when, and I got one more for you here. When is it just no longer acceptable to have up your Christmas decorations and Christmas tree?
Look, I mean, I keep my Christmas tree up until New Year's Day, and I listen to Christmas music until New Year's Day. Now, that's not a popular position, but there's a rule in my house. I don't listen to Christmas music until the day after Thanksgiving. It's not permitted to be played at all because I can't stand it. But I will leave my Christmas decorations up till New Year's, as well as listen to Christmas music after Christmas Day, which I've heard is not a popular position, but it's still a season,
Is Home Alone or Die Hard the greatest Christmas movie of all time?
Home Alone is everyone says Die Hard's a Christmas movie, and of course a Christmas movie, and of course I love it. But Home Alone is just classic. It's just classic.
I watched the making of Home Alone and the making of Die Hard on this Netflix, the Movies That Made Us show. I'd recommend that to everybody over the break. But I'd also recommend to all of our Pennsylvania listeners, and Team Buck is strong out in PA. PA 17 congressional election this year. Let's get Sean Parnell in office, everybody. He's my buddy. He's a great man. Sean, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Buck.
All right, so I promised you guys we talk a little bit about my viewing of shows over the break. And some of you probably are like, okay, it's been a great show today, Buck, but this is not. And others, you're like, yes, culture time. Let's talk some culture. So I watched really two things. I saw 1917, the movie, but I want to hold off until my man Jesse Kelly can join on that because he's going to see it. Apparently it doesn't roll out in Texas until next week. So Texas, you're a little behind on the movies there. But it's all right. Still love you. And but I watched on Netflix The Witcher and The Mandalorian. Let me start with The Witcher because I was basically off Twitter the whole break, but I did have to just say one snarky thing on Twitter about The Witcher. Do you know this show, Producer Mark? Do you know the video game?
I've heard of both, but I have not seen
it or
played.
So there's a video game of it, and the basic premise is a guy in a fantasy world, kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons world. It's a little Game of Thrones, a little along those lines. And there's a guy who is this special mutant who goes and kills monsters. But really the show is about how the people around the monsters are like the real problem. And then really the show is supposed to be about how he and his kind of, I don't know, you'd call a female wizard a wizardress. I know a warlock is a male witch and a witch is a witch. What's a female wizard called? Is there a word for a female wizard?
I think just a wizard.
Really? We're going to go with that. Okay. A lady wizard?
I mean, in Harry
they
Potter,
do wear
they
like
just
a
call,
long cloak.
Oh, I mean, did they call them witches? Maybe?
No.
No, it was just wizards. In Harry Potter, they were all wizards.
All right. So it's gender neutral. Yay for wizards. There we go. Well, the wizards go both ways. So, anyway, the show is terrible. That's what I'm saying. The show is like so bad. And I don't understand how Netflix can spend so much money. They got the guy who plays Superman, Henry Cavill, who every lady I've ever heard is like, he's so handsome. I mean, okay, he's a good looking guy. He works out a lot. Great. But the show is just, it's like the dialogue is bad. There's almost no good action whatsoever. It's cheesy. It's corny. Even the effect, like, it's just bad. And people are calling this the Netflix answer to HBO's Game of Thrones. And I'm like, they got to do better than this. I just get angry. I'm like, how can you take a show that's a little, it's kind of like Van Helsing meets Game of Thrones would be the way I'd describe the basic concept, right? Van Helsing, of course, was the doctor from Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is one of the greatest novels ever written, in my opinion. People laugh when I say that, but it's amazing, and look at all the stuff that it's spawned. But Van Helsing was the one that is kind of the vampire hunter. And then there's the follow-on versions of Van Helsing, who's kind of like a ninja that hunts vampires, and not this old man who understands like hematology and things like that. But it's not that. And there's not a lot of good monster stuff. It was really, all I wanted over break, especially as I got sick, as you can still hear my voice, all I wanted was a show to watch that I'm just like, great. Escapism. It's going to be entertaining. We're going to have some beautiful ladies, some good sword fights, some mead drinking, sword fights, mead drinking, and wenches. Like, this is kind of what I was expecting and signing up for. And sure enough, no, that is not what I got. And it befuddles me how people could spend so much money and time making something for Netflix like this and the writing is atrocious. The dialogue is terrible. You can't follow the timeline. So I'm saving you. Those of you that like it, you just like the video game and you're pretending you like the show. I mean, you can like whatever you want, and I love you no matter what. If you're Team Buck, I love you no matter what. You can like and dislike whatever shows you want. But it's just nostalgia for the video game, which I'm told is a very good game series, and I can respect that. But I never played the game. I just saw the show, and it was really, really bad. And then, I'm trying to think of what else. Nope. And now we'll move on to The Mandalorian, which is awesome. Great show. And I know people have been talking about it for a while. And not just because Baby Yoda is jaw-droppingly adorable, and I want a Baby Yoda for my birthday next year, but not like a toy one. I want like an actual Baby Yoda, because it's like this little green dude who hangs out with you all the time. It's very quiet and occasionally has some magic powers to use in your assistance, which sounds like a lot of fun to me. But The Mandalorian, it's like they just execute well. The show is good. Each episode, stuff happens. There are surprises. They operate within the world they've created in a way that makes sense. I can suspend disbelief, but you can't set a world up in a certain way and then break all the rules that you've created for that world. And this is the guy who did the original Iron Man. What's that guy's name? He's the guy from Swingers. You know what I'm talking about? Favreau, who did the original Iron Man, which is a great superhero movie too. See, some of you say that I hate all movies and TV. That's not true. I just talk about the ones that I hate because I don't like that I lost the time watching them. The Mandalorian, look, they got me to check out Disney Plus just with this show. And I'm not a Star Wars guy, by the way. I haven't seen all this other have you seen, Producer Mark, have you seen all these Star Wars things, the new ones that are out? Because like some are amazing and some are terrible, people are saying.
That's why I won't watch The Mandalorian, because I don't get Star Wars. I don't really like it. So
I think you might like The Mandalorian.
You're not the first one who said that
even if
to
you
me,
don't like Star Wars. Because it really is a standalone prequel, and they just do a good job.
Maybe it'll make you get the other movies.
Yeah, and like the characters make decisions that you're like, oh, the writers actually thought about this and made it interesting, and it's just story, script, these things still matter. We've gotten in this era of everyone's just, blasting and explosions and CGI and monsters coming out of the sky and everything, black holes opening up. And it's just all this stuff. It's all distraction and noise. You still need a real story. You still need real characters. You need to care about these characters. And Mandalorian's great. And Baby Yoda is amazing.
And I will tell you a movie that you have to go see, if you want a story and all that. You like Adam Sandler?
I'm okay with him.
His best acting performance ever in Uncut Gems.
What's Uncut Gems? What's Uncut Gems about? The critics love this movie.
It's hard to say without giving too much away, but basically he's a jeweler in New York City, and I don't
Okay,
want to
that's
say
all I
anything.
need. I just,
yeah,
you know,
he
I
has a
don't know.
gambling problem that I will say.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is amazing. It's his best performance. I didn't know Adam Sandler could act as well as he did in this movie.
I mean, I will say comedians are the most of the performing of the entertainment performing arts people, not including like music and sports, but comedians. If you're looking at people who are actors, people who are TV news anchors or who are pundits or whatever, they to me are the most likely to be able to cross over into other things. Because being a comedian is actually like being a good comedian is the hardest thing to be.
Of course,
do.
but you
the
wouldn't
hardest
think like Sandler from his previous
like
roles.
most people can't. Most people
think
can't
so.
do. Even people that do like news can't do a 3-hour a day radio
No.
show with no notes or whatever. But like, I have no illusions that I could go up and do stand up. Like the stand up is a whole other thing.
Yeah, that sounds like the scariest thing in the world.
That does. That's the only thing. I mean, I would give a I've done radio shows for literally millions of people when I fill in for Rush. I mean, nothing like psychs me out except the notion of doing stand up. Well, maybe that means that I should probably try it.
So no open mic night in Gotham or something.
I mean, I might. It would be fun to give it a shot, but I also would have to be willing to curse, which I never do in public. I only do in private life, which is funny.
There are clean comedians.
People who actually know me are like, "Wow, you're kind of salty with the language." I'm like, "Yeah,
Some of
because
the
I got
best.
to walk around all day, and it's a kid-friendly show we do here in the Freedom Hut. I want people's 8-year-olds to be able to listen to this show.
The
Some of them
FCC
do.
has something to say about that as well.
Plus, also, yeah, that's right. I mean, we are, we got a lot of stuff that's on the internet now, but I don't want producer Mark to stay up late at night having to cut out all my F-bombs. That's not good.
Yeah, that wouldn't go over well.
That wouldn't go over well. He'd be up late at night. So anyway, Uncut Gems, producer Mark gives you a rec on that one. 1917. Did you watch any shows over the break that you want to share with the
I
group?
did. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this one on air. It's not technically cursed because it's a name, but it's on Netflix. Do not bleep this. Schitt's Creek. It's the name
SCHITT.
I've heard it said on the radio too, so it's allowed to be. But it is a great show. It's a comedy. About a rich family who gets their money taken away by the FBI, and the father jokingly bought a small town years before. They have to live in that small town with no money.
That actually sounds like kind of a fun premise.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
People really thought that I was going to love. What was the movie? It's sort of similar with the guy Patrick Bateman and the family. It's a rich family. They lose all their money, and then they have to kind of just like stick.
Jason Bateman?
Jason Bateman, is that?
This is. I know what show you're talking about. It's called Ozark.
No. That's when he's laundering money. There's another show before that. I'm forgetting. Everyone listening to this is going to remember it.
I think that's a movie.
No. It's a show. It was a movie too,
it?
but it was a show, and I can't remember. Everyone's always Arrested Development. That's the show.
Oh yes, I've heard good things. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I think producer Nick probably he was all over. He's in. Yeah, Arrested. He just texted Arrested Development. That's the one. So I don't know. People love that one. I could never get that into it. I thought I was trying a little bit hard. I don't know. It wasn't really my thing.
I didn't even watch it. I was too young to
Ozark,
get into
I think
it.
is great. I mean,
Ozark's amazing. Yeah.
Ozark is completely implausible, but it's still great. Like I'll give it that. But any of you watching, I got to tell you, Disney came out strong with The Mandalorian. Is like, I mean, I've basically binge watched it. I watched the whole thing in a few days. It was really good. Also working on my book, by the way, on socialism. Don't worry, that's happening.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, a lot of that's going on too. That's coming out.
It's time for roll call.
All right. Time for roll call. Let's get to it. We get to our Facebook inbox here. Starting off with my man Mark. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton. Not to be confused with producer Mark, who's here with me. Although if he wanted to write into roll call, I would let him. Because I'm that kind of guy. Or he could just speak as he does on the show. So we don't really need him to do roll call. Mark writes, keep up the great work. I'm a major crime prosecutor in the Bay County. So if you have any criminal questions, you can contact me. Good luck. Well, thank you, Mark. I mean, it'd be interesting to reach out to you and talk to you a little bit just off the record, but just for my own edification about how bad things really are getting in San Francisco now, how out of control the crime is, and all of that stuff, and what's really happening there. Because we're reaching a point where the libs, they've convinced us all to be a little bit more merciful, a little bit more, we need to rethink criminal justice reform, but they're not being reasonable about what should be reformed. They're just like, yeah, let people out. Dangerous people, well, the system is racist, so we have to let dangerous people out just because the system is racist. We're like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Meg writes, greetings, driving today, so I haven't heard the show yet. American friends in Dubai are hearing the Brits telling Westerners to leave Dubai. Thoughts? After living there for so long, my gut is the Strait of Hormuz will be the first target along with their friends in Israel. But otherwise, life should pretty well keep going. What are your thoughts? Well, Meg, clearly you and I are on the same page about the Strait of Hormuz. I think that's the obvious way for the Iranians to get a whole lot of attention for themselves. And, if the Iranians, they're going to have to calculate this very precisely. Or I think they'll try to. If they have a massive strike on America that causes loss of life, we will lay waste to them. I mean, we just will. Remember what happened after 9/11? I mean, we will be dropping bombs, and it's going to get really, really ugly. They must know that. I think they know that, especially with Trump as president. But if they, shoot an oil tanker or two, and it causes a massive oil spill, are we going to respond with mass casualty attacks against their military? They want to make it tricky for us. I mean, if they go after a senior U.S. figure, they're making it easy. Then it's on. It's war. Or something close to war. But I don't think they're going to do that. John. John sent me the scene from Taken where Liam Neeson talks about his particular set of skills. Here we go. Brandon writes, Buck, Shields high, brother. Glad to have you back and producer Mark back in the Freedom Hut. Heard you last speaking the podcast about the EFPs that have been shipped into Iraq via Iran. Scariest part of my deployment was the EFP. We could not stop them, and we could not see them for the most part. We all knew back in 2006 they were being manufactured in Iran and brought to Iraq, not to mention we had to deal with Iranian insurgents as well, but I never remembered Bush condemning Iran for their involvement in killing our troops on a daily basis, several of which were members of my unit. It's nice to see Trump give a care about Americans and strike back after Iran killed one of our citizens. By the way, we are shoulder to shoulder with Shields High in Virginia. We're not going to take this gun confiscation from the governor without a fight, nonviolently, of course. God bless you, brother. Airborne all the way. Well, Brandon, thank you for your service. God bless you. And look, I totally agree with that. I think Trump is right to look at the situation and just say, okay, no, this is not going to continue. This is not acceptable. It's really kind of an outrage that it was able to continue as long as it did. Charlie writes, I take Zicam at the first sign of a cold and keep taking it. It either stops the cold or reduces the severity and longevity of it. Even if it were a placebo, who cares? Take it. It works. OSS, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. I might check out some Zicam, see if that will do something worthwhile and fun for me. I don't know. I mean, this cold has been lingering. I'm at a week now with this thing, basically. Ooh, yuck. Oy. It's gross. Do not like the cold. No fun. Although I have a friend who's got the flu and says that he was basically hallucinating for a day, so that's really no fun. Rachel writes, Buck, please do not listen to the woman who asks you not to do impressions anymore. Your impressions rock. Hello, what happened? Rachel, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, look, it's different strokes for different folks here, but you gotta kind of keep it mix and match.
As your producer, I must ban you from impressions until your voice is back to 100%.
That's true. Yeah, my vocal cords are gonna explode.
Because if you lose them completely, I have to host the show. Nobody wants that.
No, that'd actually be fun. I think
it'll become a sports talk show.
I was gonna say, all of a sudden, if you want to know what's going on with the Rangers, the Islanders, the Mets, the Yanks, right? You got all that covered.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's good that we have somebody in here who knows about the professional sports. These days I just don't really have the time.
You don't even know when the Super Bowl is.
That is an accurate statement, which I should know that though, because it's like I'm not even American if I don't know that. So
basically,
I got to work on these things. Charles sent me a photo of himself with an adorable white French bulldog. Merry Christmas. Well, thank you very much. And Charles writes, have to disagree with you on the Sicario trilogy. I love it. Taylor Sheridan, the screenwriter, is making a bid to become this generation's Elmore Leonard or Cormac McCarthy. Try his other work like Hell or High Water or Wind River, his best work. Peace. I liked Wind River. I thought Wind River was good. I will say that. I did not see Hell or High Water, and the Sicario Day of the Soldado movie is garbage. So, I mean, I think that's just objective. I don't even think that's really an opinion, man. But that's where I'm at on that. Anthony. Buck, I was able to return back to work after 1 year of administrative leave and the DHS's IG retaliatory investigation. I retired from federal service. Whoa, there's a lot of... Okay, well, this is really long. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. I got to read that on my own. I can't read that on the air because you got a lot of stuff there. Pamela, if you believe that Donald Trump wrote any one piece of the letter you so glowingly give him credit for, there's more than one reason you're no longer in government. I like this lady. You overlook it. First of all, government's full of mediocrity, Pamela. Yeah, not particularly bright bulb. You overlook his inability to form more than third-grade level sentence structure. This letter was written by Miller Javanka, but it's in fashion nowadays. It better go down the ship than admit you're wrong. Pamela, do you think that Obama wrote his speeches? I'm just wondering. Do you think he wrote any of his letters or speeches? Let's just start with that. That's really... So why would I think that Trump wrote the letter? Just put this out there. I think it's kind of funny, though. That's why you're no longer in government. Yes, because federal government service is where all the geniuses go to spend all their time. Chesson. I like that. I like the spicy ones. Mixes it up. Chesson writes, happy belated birthday, Buck. I can sleep safe and warm at night knowing that Buckman's out spreading freedom, crushing commies, and delivering truckloads of buck slaps. Shields high, beards of legend. Chesson, your beard is in fact legendary, as is your excellent addition to Roll Call today. What do you have, Producer Mark? But do I sound like Snuffleupagus over here? Yeah, buck slaps. I'd sound a little bit like Snuffleupagus.
I heard buck slaps, so I was going to play.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, you got to be a little faster on the draw there, Chief.
I mean, I'm sorry. I got to move around a lot here.
Yeah, that's right. Producer Mark, it's like he's in the Matrix. He's surrounded with computers. He's got to do a lot of things.
The only exercise I get is moving around the studio.
I mean, there we go. Yeah, I think crushing commies is what we do here. Crushing commies and eating fancy chocolate. And I'm all out of fancy chocolate. That's going to be the show for today, everybody. It's fantastic stuff. We'll be back Monday. It's going to be great next week, every day. Please do tell somebody. Download the Buck Sexton Show podcast on the iHeart app or on iTunes. Shields high.